Welcome to today's Explainer. We are going to map out a highly intricate, almost sci-fi web of modern internet lore. It's a fascinating, deeply interconnected narrative that converges on one highly specific year, 2026. So, let's dive right in and unpack what figures in this space are actually claiming.
Think about that for a second. It's a pretty wild question, right? But according to claims from figures like remote viewer Elizabeth April, a massive, staged event could literally be on the horizon. Now, our goal today is just to examine the anatomy of this lore. We're not taking sides here. We're just laying it all out so you can understand exactly what's being discussed in these corners of the internet. Let's see how this whole thing builds from the ground up.
All right, Part 1, Project Bluebeam and Holograms.
So the outermost layer of this whole 2026 puzzle actually starts way back in 1994. Have you ever heard of Project Bluebeam? It was originally popularized by a Canadian journalist named Serge Manost. The core claim here is that a global shadow government will use insanely advanced holographic technology to stage a false apocalypse, or maybe even a fabricated alien arrival. The ultimate goal? To completely manipulate public perception and establish total global control through grand, unavoidable visual illusions.
But how on earth would they actually pull this off? Well, the sources detail a terrifyingly integrated suite of technologies. We aren't just talking about giant holographic UFOs projected into the sky like a massive movie screen. This theory claims these visual illusions are paired with physical drones designed to look exactly like alien craft and even reverse-engineered Black Triangle spacecraft piloted by actual humans in military fatigues. And to make the illusion physically destructive, the theory suggests direct energy weapons, or DUs, would be used to cause real, undeniable explosions. Together, all these tools are allegedly meant to create a completely fabricated off-planet global enemy.
Moving on to Section 2, the July 2026 distraction.
And this brings us to a highly specific, highly predicted timeframe. According to the remote viewing predictions of Elizabeth April, the shadow government has incredibly precise timing in mind. Looking back at the year 2020 as sort of a base model for a global crisis, the timeline suddenly zeroes in on July 2026. Specifically, we're talking about July 4th, the 250th anniversary of the United States, and mid-July, right around the FIFA World Cup final. The prediction suggests a staged terrorist attack or fake alien invasion would drop right during these massive spectacles. I mean, think about it. An event at the World Cup would instantaneously capture the attention of the entire globe.
Which brilliantly illustrates the underlying strategy they call the common enemy. The theories out there draw a direct, explicit parallel to the 2020 pandemic. Back in 2020, an invisible biological threat made the world feel completely vulnerable, supposedly making people willing to trade their freedoms for a sense of safety. The 2026 prediction? It operates on the exact same mechanism, just flipped to a different threat. By staging a massive off-planet attack, the goal is to force global submission, making the public voluntarily surrender their rights in exchange for state-provided protection.
Which leads us to Section 3, the 2030 Agenda for Global Control.
If you peel back the layers of this fake invasion, you hit what the sources claim is the ultimate motive. In these conspiracy circles, totally mundane, real-world bureaucratic documents get radically reinterpreted. For instance, the United Nations' actual 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which is publicly focused on ending poverty, is viewed through a completely different lens here. In this narrative, it's actually seen as a sinister blueprint for a new world order.
You've probably heard this phrase floating around. You'll own nothing and be happy. Well, that's supposedly the endgame of this agenda, pushing for the total suppression of individual sovereignty. The crucial takeaway from all this? The spectacular July 2026 holographic events are allegedly just a massive global distraction. While the population is hypnotized and terrified by some grand illusion in the sky, organizations are supposedly operating quietly behind the scenes to slip incredibly restrictive bills right through the cracks. Okay, Section 4, the White Hats Intervention Debate.
Now, according to this expansive narrative, the shadow government isn't just operating totally unchecked. Enter the White Hats. They are described as a benevolent, hidden governing body actively working to counter the shadow government, and they aren't tied to any specific country or religion at all. Elizabeth April actually compares this dynamic to a James Bond movie playing out in the background of our daily lives. It's this high-stakes battle to save the world that the general public is entirely unaware of.
So, these White Hats are reportedly fully aware of the July 2026 plans and are actively preparing a pushback. But here's the catch. They are locked in a massive ethical debate. Should they actually intervene? On one hand, stopping the event prevents immediate global trauma and utter societal chaos. That's good, right? But on the other hand, the White Hats observe that massive crises often serve as the ultimate catalyst for change. They're genuinely wondering if allowing the event to happen is actually necessary to trigger a mass spiritual awakening, shift human DNA, and cause the public to finally aggressively question official narratives.
And this whole dilemma relies heavily on what Elizabeth April calls the foot-in-mouth effect. This is the idea that whenever the shadow government attempts to heavily manipulate the public using fear, they actually end up self-sabotaging. The severe trauma completely backfires, acting as this massive wake-up call that violently pushes humanity toward unstoppable spiritual growth. The White Hats are literally debating if the temporary chaos of a staged alien invasion is just the necessary price we have to pay for a permanent global awakening.
And finally, Section 5. Finding truth through discernment. Zooming all the way in from these giant cosmic conflicts down to you and me, how does a regular person navigate this? Well, the sources introduce a fascinating twist here. They claim the shadow government actually wants you to know about Project Bluebeam. By intentionally planting information and mixing real sightings with holographic illusions, their goal is to create profound disorientation. The ultimate aim of this orchestrated chaos is to make the public deeply cynical, leading people to dismiss any authentic extraterrestrial contact as just another AI trick.
So what's the fix? How do you beat this maze of misinformation? The sources emphatically argue for internal discernment. Elizabeth April stresses that your logical, skeptical mind is incredibly easy to manipulate with this kind of advanced technology. To find the real truth, you have to shift into what she calls the heart space. You literally have to quiet the external noise. Stop seeking validation from the government, from whistleblowers, or even from online gurus. Instead, tune into your own internal knowledge to find true soul resonance.
Let's look at how you supposedly put this into practice. According to the sources, your body acts as a built-in sensor. If you're consuming media or witnessing an event and it gives you feelings of anxiety, restlessness, or even physical nausea, that information is part of a staged fear-based agenda. Step away from it. Conversely, genuine truth or authentic contact will trigger an uplifting, aligned energy in your heart space. Elizabeth April describes it as a definitive fuck yes energy, a quiet internal certainty that something is true, even if it logically makes zero sense.
So, at the end of the day, whether you're analyzing esoteric conspiracy theories about Project Bluebeam, or you're just simply trying to navigate the very real, everyday chaos of our modern digital age, this entire narrative challenges us. It absolutely forces us to reflect on how we consume information. If the world truly is becoming full of AI projections, deepfakes, and just endless noise, how will you calibrate your own internal truth meter?